Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Monday, April 10th, 23 months journey, and this is my first cup. Good morning. Good morning, Stacy. Who else is out there? I know there's more people. I hope you had a great weekend. I had a wonderful weekend. A fantastic weekend. Good morning, Jenny. So what are we doing today? We're going to talk about our weekends. We're going to talk about what's going on with this first work day of the week, for most of us anyway. We'll talk about today's episode of Martial Arts Radio with a guest that I think every single one of you know. Good morning, Kelly. And we'll see what Frank sent over, because I'm sure he sent stuff over. I didn't even look yet, because it's Monday and I'm running a little slow. How about you? Do you run slow on Mondays? I do. Frank's asking, am I back on coffee again? I have been drinking decaf for a couple weeks now. I really missed my coffee, but it's decaf. The only cup of coffee I had, knowingly caffeinated. Actually, no, I had one yesterday, midday. Last Friday, about 3 o'clock, I had a cup of coffee. It was supposed to be decaf. I was at a coffee shop and it was not. How did I know? Because at 11:30, as I'm laying in bed going, crap. Not my best night's sleep. Brian says, I Garfield Mondays. However, we will try this approach. Monday morning all. Good morning to you, Nick. So let's do this. How was your weekend? I want to know what you did. I want to know the highlights of your weekend. Did you train in some way? Did you go somewhere? I got a bunch of training coming up. Weekend training coming up. Those of you attending All In Weekend, you've got one coming up. I do enjoy tea, but coffee and a little bit of cream, there's just nothing like it. There's no tea that comes close. Now, I did load up my phone because I wanted to double check that today's episode of Martial Arts Radio is up and live and ready to go, and it is. Let's see. Hold on. Let's mute this first. The big reveal. Dun, 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 dun. Skip ads. And we'll just pause it. What's that name say right there? Can you read it? Can you read it? Can you read it? That's right. Today's episode is with our very own Kelly, Master Kelly Thomas. And there aren't a whole lot of people that I've known this long and we have not brought on the show. Now, Kelly was on the show at one point, but it wasn't really an interview. It wasn't so much about her. We did talk about her background a little bit when we did that episode, but it was time. It was time. You know, we've got so much going on that once in a while I'm like, we haven't had that person on. And frankly, sometimes I forget who's been on the show. When I was recording last week, someone brought up a name. They said, oh, so-and-so. And I went, hold on, that name is familiar. And I grabbed it and went, yep. And if you my street, it's a lot of name, whistle on the show, because I don't always remember. Kelly says, oh, geez, I'm blushing. Well, it was a great episode. I know you're all going to enjoy it. And, you know, my favorite part about doing an episode like this is that a number of you know Kelly somewhat. You like her, and now you get to know her even better. And I think that that's awesome. That's why we do what we do. So forever. The world, I don't know. It'll be. I can see from a little icon on the screen that the internet connection is not running great. I hope it's not impacting you too much. Stacy did scorekeeping at a local tournament. It took enough out of me that I slept for 21 hours after I got home. Wow, that is a long day. Frank says, had an Easter party at our house last night. Well, how did that go? Did the Easter Bunny show up? Jenny took care of a sick toddler. I'm hoping we were done with germs for a while. The last couple of months, it felt like one illness right after another in this house. I am sorry to hear that. Vitamin D. Just start getting everybody more vitamin D. I shouldn't say just, because that may not be the whole problem, but absolutely, I would be shocked does not have an impact on germs. So what did I do? So yesterday was my last improv class. One of the members of the class hosted about half the class for an Easter brunch. Her husband hid eggs around the yard, and so we went out. 60 eggs, we found 59 of them. I struggled to find them. Started off strong. I had like 3 right off the bat. I finished with 7. There were, I think, 6-7 people hunting for 60 eggs. So definitely below my quota. That's okay. And then we went to class, had a great class. A number of us went out for drinks after class. It's just been a wonderful group, and I've had a lot of fun getting to know these people. We have a performance coming up April 19th. It's kind of our, let's call it our graduation. It's going to be us being fools on stage as we do some of these improv games, and it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. And then eventually I'll continue on, probably in the fall. I'll take another class. We'll see how it goes. Jenny, I understand. Frank says the Easter Bunny did not make an appearance at this party. We did have an Easter egg hunt, though, and there were plenty of jokes. Glad to hear it. Nick says we cleaned the house and did yard work. My girlfriend made an amazing lamb roast and scalloped potatoes from scratch and asparagus wrapped in bacon. It was a great day. That's quite the food. The menu. Kelly was at that tournament with Stacy. Brought 3 teenagers. I thought you were going to say left with 2 or 4. Interesting commute, 2.5-hour trip, long day, interesting environment. Easter dinner at my parents' on Sunday with family. Great. Rock on. What else did I do? So Friday night, I did go to CrossFit and had a hard time falling asleep. So Saturday, I slept in, did a bunch of stuff around the house. Saturday, the big thing that I did, I finally got the greenhouse up. Took a few hours. I had to find all the pieces, which, fortunately I put them in intelligent spots and I found them quickly. But got that thing set up and dealt with all the soil stuff that I needed to deal with, because I'm trying some things a little bit differently with the soil profile I'm going to use. And had to rearrange some plants to make room for the greenhouse. So that was the biggie on Saturday. I went out, had a drink at a local bar, which turned into drinking nachos, because nachos. And came home and went to bed. And I was up early on yesterday. Got up at 6 because brunch was at 10. I had to leave at 9, and I had to cook some food. I tried something new, and I'll share this with you. If you like scrambled eggs. So scrambled eggs, pretty simple, right? Here's the thing that happens with eggs. We tend to cook them over too high of heat. So I used a double boiler. It's something I wanted to try, and wasn't going to set it up just to do, a couple eggs for me. But what did I cook? 18 eggs. And it worked beautifully. Here's the challenge. Doesn't matter what you do to keep eggs at temperature, they lose their texture. I had those things preheated crock pot in a cooler for the drive. As soon as I got where I was going, we plugged it in, but the tasted texture was off. Not again. It's all right. I had some before I left. They were amazing. Just looking at what you're all talking about. I'm not going to mention that subject because of that word, as you know. So today, in addition to all of you watching or listening to Kelly's episode, which I'm sure you're going to love, I've got a number of client calls. I'll be at the office. I've been spending a lot of time working on programs. If you couldn't tell, you're probably seeing ads for them on Facebook. And it paid off. We sold a number of them on Friday. My goal, if we could just get to selling like 3 programs a day, it really would be that simple. Like call it 100 a month. The finances of this company just change overnight. Just completely changes. Well, depending on how much I spend on the ads to get those sales. We're getting close. We really are. And I'm excited. Andrew and I, no, we already talked about that. All-in weekend stuff is good. Those of you attending, I've got one of our stretch goals over there. Andrew sent me pictures of one that he's got going. Shirts are ordered. Sweatshirts are ordered. Patches are on the way. Those are arriving this week. I didn't have the computer plugged in. Maybe that's why it wasn't running as efficiently. I think that's it. I think that's it to share. You all can keep chiming in on the chat. I want to see you talking about what you've got going on. And everybody do me a favor, hit that like, thumbs up, whatever you got going, dependent on where you're watching. Frank says, thank goodness Jeremy finally decided to get with the program. Well, yeah. Once in a while, I run a little bit behind. A lot of good things happening. We're building a system. We're building a better system for just kind of lining things up and promoting not just programs, but everything. And I'm excited because it's not just me. It's various members on the team. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. Here, let me. We will get that. You know what? We'll get that fixed. Andrew will take care of that. We'll get that over to and Julius. We'll fix that. I'm sorry. All right. So where's my Facebook? I don't even have Facebook open yet. Let's do that. Come on. Here we go. Loading. Still loading. Here we go. Thank you to Frank for all that you do on the show. Thank you to Josh for our theme song. Thank you to Denise for the audio. And what do we got today? The difference between listening and pretending to listen, I discovered, is enormous. One is fluid. The other is rigid. One is alive. The other is stuffed. Eventually, I found a radical way of thinking about listening. Real listening is a willingness to let the other person change you. When I'm willing to let them change me, something happens between us that's more interesting than a pair of dueling monologues. Alan Alda. We all know what it's like to talk to someone who doesn't really hear us. They look at you, they nod along, maybe they're even silent. And then you can tell that the words that come out of their mouth They were ready to speak those words before you even started talking. How does that make you feel? When I very rarely have conversations with people like that anymore for a number of reasons. One, I don't surround myself with people who do that. Two, I don't get into conversations with people about sensitive subjects, except in very rare cases with people that I know actually want to hear what I have to say. And no, I guess those are the only two reasons. That's about it. As I've gotten to know this group of improv folks who are all wonderful people, they've said some things that I disagree with. And guess what? I just sat quietly. Because with every subject, me changing their mind doesn't actually change anything. I think a lot of us have this arrogance in our belief that if we get everybody to think like us, that things are going to change. And maybe if you could get everyone, but getting your friends or your family to think like you do doesn't change anything. And thus, is it really worth the argument? No, it's not. I don't think so. Good morning, Nathan. Nick says, they're not listening, just waiting for their turn to talk. Yeah, there are a lot of people who converse like this. And some, I know people that do this. Yeah. And they're just, actually, we were talking about this yesterday after improv. It's like double Dutch. You watch somebody getting ready to jump in and they're doing this, right? They're looking for the opening. Some people have conversation like that. Yeah. And as soon as they think there's a gap, they charge right through. And then they're there and they're talking. It's like, did you hear anything I said? Are we having a conversation or are you just talking at me? As the quote says, dueling monologues. That's not fun. Nobody benefits from that. So it's literally just a waste of time. Unless you value speaking your perspective so much that you don't care how it's received. If you don't care how someone takes your words, there's no point in saying them. If you're not willing to put the effort into crafting how you say something, you're better off not saying it. How we say things matters far more than what we say. Kelly says, or when you are trying to explain how you feel or what you want, but they think they know better. I tend to listen more, especially in a mixed group. If I don't know everyone there, if I'm not super confident about what's going on, I'll listen. I learn a lot by listening. I offend no one by listening. And I get to understand who I'm around. A lot easier to understand how to act once you know people a little better. Good morning, Gad. What's our next quote here? That's not really the display I want. How about this one? Ooh, I'll use this one. Your assumptions are your windows on the world. Scrub them off every once in a while or the light won't come in. If you challenge your own, you won't be so quick to accept the unchallenged assumptions of others. You'll be a lot less likely to be caught up in bias or prejudice or be influenced, by people who ask you to hand over your brains, your soul, or your money because they have everything all figured out for you. Alan Alda again. We live in this very interesting time, marketing-wise. I probably spend more time looking at and thinking about marketing than any of you, but maybe not all of you. And a lot of what I see is this very cookie cutter, will get you everything you want You just have to give us this amount of money. But it's actually not this amount of money. It's this smaller amount of money. Don't wait. There's a formula to marketing that you can use. But there has to be some authenticity to it. And when we think about this quote, our assumptions, that's the place that I think a lot of people fall down in across life, marketing, non-marketing. We make these assumptions. If we tie this back to the first quote, when people just go, when they don't want to engage in conversation, when they just want to talk at you, when they're tuning you out, even though they're looking at you, why are they doing that? Because they're assuming something about you, that because you think this and they think something else, that the two of you have nothing to gain by having conversation. They just don't want to, quote, lose. And I'll continue to say this, at least as long as it takes for me to not see, because remember, I'm friends with many of you on social media. I see some of you doing this. Cultivating division, cultivating this dichotomy that on any subject, there's one side and another, as if we live in a two-dimensional world. And that's never the case. There are always multiple angles. There are as many ways to look at a thing as there are people. At least. And if you feel the need to be overly simplistic and ignore the perspectives that lead to those very nuanced differences in the angle that someone sees something as, I think that's problematic. Maybe we come together because we agree on most of it, 80% of it, 99% of it, sure. But to simply reduce everyone to that same box, it's easy. It makes us feel good. It's dismissive. Oh, they're just dumb. No, they're not. They just see something differently. I hope, here's a kind of maybe a silly example. I don't know that I know anyone who believes the earth is flat. Statistically, I probably do. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with someone. I want to understand that perspective. I find that fascinating. Is it likely they're going to change my mind? It's probably one of the things I'm most confident in is that they won't. But I'm not going to sit down and say it's impossible, because there have been plenty of impossible things in my life that have happened. It's only impossible coming from the perspective I have. And wouldn't it be far more interesting and respectful to have a conversation with someone with that dramatically different belief if I'm willing to be open? I'm sure they would have a much more enjoyable time. Am I so vulnerable that I can't possibly open the door while I have a conversation with them? I love having my mind changed. I truly do. Because it means I learned something. I got better. People who refuse to have their mind changed, they're stuck. They won't get better. You can't have growth without change. You've all probably heard this. Even Jenny says, even the word impossible itself says, I'm possible. Absolutely. And what's our last quote from Mr. Alda today? Be as smart as you can, but remember that it's always better to be wise than to be smart. What's the difference? To me, the difference between intelligence, being smart, and wisdom, intelligence is the ability to process information. Wisdom is experience. Intelligence is about developing theories. Here's how I think I should do this. Here's how I believe this works. Wisdom is, here's how this worked in the past. If you're wise, you can give solid advice. When I did this, this happened. Intelligence is, If you do this, this will probably happen. But here's the thing. Most people don't realize that they're sharing theories. They're assuming that they're right because they can't see it possibly going any other way. Many of you have probably seen this meme that he's referencing. Gad says, makes me want to sit in the park with a sign saying, it's possible to change my mind. Change my mind. Frank says, some people told you Whistlekick succeeding was impossible, but look at it now. Thank you. Kelly says, I feel as martial artists, we need to be open. We don't have to agree, but to be sympathetic or empathetic. Not sure which is the correct term. I think both actually are valid depending on how you're looking at it. And I just wish, that we as a realm, martial arts, I wish we were more willing to understand the differences among us. Why do you punch like that? Why do you do that kick that way? Oh, we do this form this way. Why do you do it this way? Because that's where the greatest opportunities for growth come from. This is why I love cross training. It's why when I get the chance to learn from other people, I want to be a white belt. I want to know everything about your way. And once in a while, somebody shows me something and I go, oh. And it sends me off and I look back through everything I do. I go, okay. If you're coming to All In Weekend, we've got something like that brewing. There's something that I've been playing with literally for years, and I'm ready to roll it out. Something that I am 100% certain I'm not the only person who's come to this conclusion. 100% certain that there are other people who teach this. Nobody's ever taught it to me. I've never heard it explained. And if I do my job well, you'll go, oh, that's why, fill in the blank. I hope you have a great day. It's light out. The snow is melting. It's going to be 60 degrees. It's going to be 80 on Friday. I'm taking the day off. I'll do the show, and then that'll probably be it. Because I got some down trees I got to deal with. And it's going to be nice. So I'll go deal with that. At least that's the plan. We'll see what happens. I love how I'm going to pick on you. I asked all of you, I said, hey, could everybody hit the like or the thumbs up? And 0 people did. The one heart that's there is the one that was there when we started. Jenny says, so a double block really is defense against 2 opponents? Probably never. But you could use it if you want. No, you'll see. You'll see. And Jenny will see. There we go. We got a couple hearts coming in. Thank you, everyone. Go check out today's episode with our own Master Kelly Thomas. And if you want to support Whistlekick and all that we do, remember, here are the big 3. Pick something up at whistlekick.com using the code FirstCup15, like the new knee clinic that we launched last week. If you have shaky knees, creaky knees, weak knees, sore knees, this is probably what you want. If you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out. You could also join the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. We're constantly adding people, constantly but slowly, right? Like it's a steady upward move, and I love that. As little as $2 a month. And then the last thing, the family page, whistlekick.com/family. I update it at least once a week. Sometimes I put in some discounts you're not going to find anywhere else. Sometimes I put in just some of my own thoughts. Sometimes I put in photos. Sometimes it's martial arts related. Sometimes it's less so. But it's always stuff you're not going to find anywhere else. So I would advise you once a week, check out that page, scan through, look at all the ways you can help us. And maybe there's something in there that we can help you. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a fantastic day. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Peace.